What's up guys, it's Skill up here with another Should I Buy It weekly vendor reset video. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I've been busy on the PTS testing stuff out in week 3 and also playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is pretty fun. It's definitely got some issues, no doubt about that, but definitely had some fun playing that the other night. Guys, this week the weekly Should I Buy It is actually sponsored by the Nacon Revolution Pro controller. It's a Pro PS4 controller that has a ton of customization available to it. I'm not going to talk about it now. I'll leave a link in the description below, but I'm also giving one of these away. It actually works on PS4 and PC, so it's not going to work on Xbox, but hey, you can still enter the giveaway if you like. Maybe keep it for later or give it to someone else. All you need to do is drop the video a like and leave a comment down below what you're looking forward to most about patch 1.6. I'm going to choose the best winner and contact them by some means. They will get the controller. It's as simple as that, and with that, let's get stuck straight into the video. At the weapons vendor in the base of operations, you're going to find an L86 here. Now this weapon has received a bit of a buff in patch 1.6, making it a little bit more usable. It's one of the more burst fire focused LMGs. It's only got 11% damage out of cover, which is quite low. However, it does have competent, which is generally going to be a lot easier to hit since you're probably going to be stacking on a little bit more skill power in the patch. Capable you don't need with this weapon because it becomes quite accurate very fast, and brutal is still a very strong talent, so not a bad roll to start the week off. At the gear vendor next to him, there's a backpack here. It's resourceful. It's rolled 1243 stamina out of a maximum of 1272, so strong roll there. Resourceful allows you to heal your skill objects. This is particularly good for the defense gear set, or anytime you're running the ballistic shield, since you are absolutely going to need to put some healing into that thing in the future. It's not as strong as it was in the past, and also legendary difficulty hits a lot harder on that shield, so running a resourceful backpack is actually quite good with those shield builds. Finally, there's a prototype performance mod here. It's rolled 2% pulse critical hit damage, which is a max roll. At the Dark Zone gear vendor in the base of operations, you're going to find a prototype electronics mod here. It's rolled for 258 stamina, which is a fairly strong roll given it caps out at 267 on this one. It's also got 3015 skill power, which is a kind of middle of the road roll. I bring this mod to your attention because this is going to be a very popular mod in 1.6. Skill power has had major revisions to its overall scaling, so you're going to be wanting to stack more of those, and furthermore, you're not going to need armor in that major attribute slot. You're going to want something else, and skill power is a very strong contender. At the advanced weaponry vendor, you're going to find your classic Pakhan, Cassidy, and Centurion. Make sure you buy them now because they're not going to be available from this vendor in the future. They're going to be more expensive Phoenix credit purchases later on. The Pakhan this week is actually very, very strong. It has one of the strongest damage rolls I've ever seen. It's definitely an upgrade versus my existing Pakhan. You're going to see a different damage value there than mine because it actually scales with your firearms, but check your Pakhan, see if this is an upgrade for you because it certainly was for me. You're also going to see this Aug A3 Para XS. It's rolled 37% critical hit damage, which is a fairly strong value. It's got Fierce in this top slot here, which is a bit of a challenge even in patch 1.6 because it requires both firearms and electronics, whereas you really need to be able to put some points in stamina across the spectrum. It's got responsive, which is always great, but it does require that high firearms. And finally, it's got Adept, which is a fantastic talent in PvP and in general, but obviously fits really well with SMGs, given the fact that, you know, you need to be able to unlock the value of that base critical hit damage with as much crit as possible. So overall, it's a fairly good roll. I'd probably recommend rolling away that Fierce. It's just going to be a bit tricky for you to hit it. Do that and you're left with a very strong SMG. There's also an Infantry MG5 here. It's 13% damage out of cover, which is okay. It's got Destructive on it, which is quite nice. It's got Dominant, which you'd roll away, and Ferocious, making it a very strong PvE weapon. This variant is the sort of faster rate of fire belt-fed LMG. It's got that 50 mag and the 800 RPM, so it's quite a versatile weapon. It'll work in quite a few different settings, but yeah, overall the rolls are pretty strong, especially Ferocious propping it up in that third slot there is very handy. Downstairs in the terminal at the special equipment vendor, we've got the Valkyria, the Liberator, and the Historian, all of which are named weapons that'll be available in patch 1.6, but they will be buffed and they'll also be more expensive. So buy them now because the price here on patch 1.5 is cheaper. There's a G36 here with Predatory, Brutal, and Focus. I generally like to roll away Focus because it's pretty rubbish. This one has rolled with 19% enemy armor damage, which is pretty good. The G36 is fairly middle of the road assault rifle. It's not as much damage as an M4 and LVOA, but it has a much better recoil profile, making it much easier to tame. So not a bad weapon there. The other gear pieces here that you're looking at, I'm not going to talk about them in detail, purely because many of the stats, like these for example, damage to elites, they're going to change in the coming patch, and it's a bit unclear at this point where exactly those are going to land. So my advice to you is be cautious with your purchases here. Don't assume that the stats are going to be the same across the board, because there are definitely very big changes coming left, right, and center on that front. I will say this, the major and minor stats are going to change, but I think the main stats there are going to stay quite the same. So you can look at those stats and have a fair amount of confidence in those, but even then, nothing is certain, given that it's a PTS and things are changing pretty thick and fast. Have a look through the list of what's available, see if you need to plug any gaps. For example, the Reclaimer gear set's got a huge buff in patch 1.6. You might need that piece of gear to get the 4-piece bonus. Pick it up, but don't look at the stats. Finally, this prototype electronics mod here, 266 Electronics, is a good roll on that, and 2% skill haste is okay, given that it maxes out at 3%. There's also 4% turret damage prototype performance mod here. Turrets did get a nerf on patch 1.6 week 3 of the PTS. They have a lot less health now because they were getting pretty out of control in PvP there. But the turret still remains a very viable ability indeed, particularly shock and flame turret. The status effect it applies is very powerful. Finally, Omega Rifle Suppressor Tan, headshot, accuracy, and crit hit damage. You'd really want crit hit chance in that second slot instead of accuracy, but if you're really desperate for a suppressor, then this one will do the job. At the special blueprints vendor this week, we've got ourselves an M870 Express shotgun. It's taken big nerfs over the last little while. Definitely not what it once was, but still one of the better burst shotguns available. If that is your thing, then I recommend picking it up. Otherwise, I'd recommend passing. If you're looking for a PvE shotgun, go for an SASG. There's also going to be an MP5, a Navy MP5 or an MP7 there, one of the two. I own both of those blueprints, so that's why that's not appearing. There's a stamina backpack, a small laser pointer blueprint. A Ti-RANT Suppressor blueprint is good though. This one rolls base crit hit chance, and it actually fits in your small type variants, your SMG weapons. This is the go-to mod, or go-to suppressor I should say, for most SMGs, and this is the one that you want. So just roll a whole bunch of these until you get one with, you know, critical hit damage, crit chance, and headshot damage, because that's really your mod of choice. And finally, there's a stamina gear mod blueprint here before we start getting into the 229 stuff, which we don't want. At the Kerman Station Safe House this week, we're going to find ourselves a Police T821. Now, it's got a really nice combination of talents on it. First of all, it's got Self-Preserve, which is a great fit, Responsive, and Vicious. All three of these synergize perfectly with an SMG. The problem is the T821 is not great. It's got an RPM of 550, which is definitely on the slower side for SMGs, and that 32 mag, even though it's quite large, is definitely not large enough like a PP19. Yeah, this is unfortunately a bit of a miss on this one. At the Madison Stand Safe House this week, we'll find a prototype performance mod that's rolled for First Aid Self Heal 5.5% out of a max roll of 6%. This is a very important mod in patch 1.6 because Heal has taken a big hit in terms of its skill power scaling, and you have a lot more health and you can't rely on armor. So you need to make sure your Heal hits fairly well. I definitely recommend picking up 4 of these if you ever plan to run solo. At the Firewall Safe House, we're going to find ourselves a prototype performance mod that's rolled for Support Station Healing Speed. A very handy mod in 1.6 because the Reclaimer gear set has received some nice buffs and it's a lot stronger now. The Support Station is a very powerful ability, so much so that they had to kind of tune it back in week 3 of the PTS. However, it's still going to be a very go-to playstyle, so 4 of these mods cannot hurt. At the East 53rd Street DZ checkpoint, there's a prototype performance mod that's rolled for Ballistic Shield Health 6.5% out of a max roll of 7. Very important mod in the future. The changes to the defense gear set and also the addition of the new legendary difficulty and the way skill power scales all mean that your shield is a lot squishier than it once was, and you are going to need to use health mods in order to keep it going, to keep it up. So I definitely recommend stocking up on these if you haven't already got some. At the East 46th Street DZ checkpoint, there's a prototype stamina mod here. It's rolled 236, which is on the low side, but it's okay, not terrible. And it's also got 3025 skill power, which is again a bit of a middle of the road roll. You're not going to want armor on your major attributes attributes in future, you are going to want other stats, and skill power is going to be a big sort of contributor there. Everyone's going to want to run skill power, so check that one out. There's also an extended mag here as well with mag size, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. The rolls are far from exceptional, but it may be an upgrade if you're running a poor extended magazine. At the East 42nd Street DZ checkpoint, we're going to find ourselves a military AK-47M. Now, these weapons excel. It's actually got a 22% enemy armor damage roll, which is okay, but it's the per bullet damage, which is very good. These weapons excel with the Predator's Mark gear set since you want every bullet that you fire to hit really hard. And the talents on it are okay as well. We've got ourselves Predatory, Unforgiving, and Sustained. Sustained, you kind of would probably roll that away. It's not particularly exciting. Unforgiving's great for PvP, and Predatory is very strong from a sustained perspective. But as I was saying, Predator's Mark, you need each bullet to hit really hard. So I'd really recommend an AK-47 if that's your set, because this is just basically the best fit for it. At the 5th Avenue DZ checkpoint, we've got ourselves an MP7 here. It's the best burstfire SMG. It's got Destructive and Skilled in that 3rd slot. Destructive, very versatile, works PvE and PvP. Skilled, a very PvE-focused talent since it requires headshot kills in order to be able to get any use out of it, and you don't get too many of those in PvP. Still, you know, you want to obviously roll away this Determined because it's not particularly sexy, but if you do, you're left with a very good, very viable PvE-focused SMG, so don't pass that one up. We've also got a prototype performance mod here, which is rolled Seeker Mine damage 4%, which is the max roll. As anyone on the PTS will know, Seeker Mines are everywhere like a rash. They've just been nerfed significantly in PTS 3, so there's going to be a little bit of a difference. I still haven't quite tested how much of a difference yet, but certainly they're going to have a longer cooldown, and they are not going to stagger, and they are not going to deal quite as much damage. But regardless, they still remain a powerful ability in PvP because of their auto-targeting capability. So I still recommend picking up these mods if you haven't, because they are probably going to be very useful. At the West 42nd Street DZ checkpoint, we're going to find a military Scar 8. It's got 171% headshot damage, which is damn nice. It's got accurate on it, which is perfect for this weapon type because it has high rate of fire and it requires a lot of accuracy to keep the weapon under control. Disciplined is fairly good, though it's more suited to something like an M44 or a Model 700, purely because they hit harder and you want those individual bullets when they crit to really snap the target in half. So yeah, there's also Ferocious on this, which really, you know, it's a great PvE talent, just 10% straight extra damage to elite and named enemies. It's a really nice fit. So overall, it's a really strong PvE focused weapon. If anything, I'd probably roll away that Discipline for something like Brutal, and it's pretty top tier. There's also a prototype performance mod, Smart Cover Damage Resilience. The Smart Cover has been ignored for a long time, but people are just waking up to its value. I've been using it for ages, but I haven't done a video on it yet because it's just been too many other priorities. The thing is, this thing gives you a lot of all damage resistance, even though that has been reduced somewhat on the PTS, excuse me. And the beauty of it is that in things like Lost Signal, which is the new incursion, it's almost a must-have because some of the encounters really require you to put some cover down because there just isn't enough cover for you to use. So if you haven't got some of these, I recommend it because it definitely supports that more, you know, defensive support style of play. At the West 46th Street DZ checkpoint, we're going to find ourselves a M700 Carbon. 164 headshot damage is a nice roll. Balanced Destructive, which is great. An Elevator, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's very, very situational, so I typically like to roll it away. Balanced is an interesting one. It gets quite ignored, but it can be quite good, particularly on these one-shot snipers, actually. If you're really good with your aim, you can kind of run around in like Last Stand or the Dark Zone and shoulder the weapon and get a really small reticle really fast and land a precise headshot, then maybe switch over to a different weapon to finish off your target. It's a very high skill cap associated with Balanced, but it's something that I like to do more in PvE, obviously, because I don't do a huge amount of PvP, but still, don't overlook Balanced. It can be a great talent if you know how to use it. At the West 53rd Street DZ checkpoint, we have a Ti-RANT Suppressor here. Now, unfortunately, this is not a particularly great set of rolls. 6.5% critical hit chance when this actually maxes out at about 8%. Crit hit damage is max roll, and the headshot damage is 5.5 out of 6.5. It's the crit chance that really lets this one down. It's not the end of the world, but I'd recommend actually buying the blueprint we spoke about earlier and rolling a few of those, because a well-rolled Ti-RANT Suppressor is going to make a big difference. At the DZ6 checkpoint, I'm not going to talk about any of this stuff because, as I said, many of the stats will change, but this is just a quick scroll through of all the items that are available this week. Now that's it, guys. That's Should I Buy It for the week. We're now in week 3 or iteration 3 of the PTS, so it can't be too much longer till patch 1.6 is released. If you're on PC, make sure you jump on there and get in a few games of Last Stand, try and run the Incursion, run Legendary difficulty a few times, give some feedback to the devs, because the more feedback we give, the better. There's also the Ghost Recon beta taking place this week, and I've just done a complete playthrough of that. You can check my stream, which I've uploaded. I'm going to put that in the description below, and expect some more videos on that soon. Drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.